Hello everyone. Got an item here that I've been waiting quite a while for. So let's just get down to it and unbox it already. I'm sure you can see in the video description what this is already. Let's see. And I don't mean waiting quite a while for as in like, it's taken a long time for Amazon to deliver it. No, I just mean that I've been waiting a while for this to come out. That is The Untold History of Japanese Game Developers Volume 2. Of course, I have Volume 1, and it's right here. And of course, this was a Kickstarter reward, and because it was a Kickstarter project which made this whole vision come to life. And this Volume 2 was not made with Kickstarter, which is really strange because, I don't know, that's kind of sad that it's really strange because kind of like the way the crowdfunding has been going lately, you go ahead and crowdfund something, and like for instance, let's just use Pebble Time because I mean that's the most obvious example. But you see, they go to Kickstarter for their first watch, and then they go to Kickstarter again for their next watch, and that's a really strange. I don't know. It makes me a little bit uncomfortable to see them do that because really, I would expect that Kickstarter, the whole idea behind it is to kickstart your company or your idea or whatever. And then, so after you can make the initial thing, then train wheels are off, and then you could make it again, and without the public's help. But kind of like in other words, you don't have to kickstart a motorcycle, after every stoplight. But this is actually really strange, and it actually caught me way out of left field. I didn't expect this to happen. I was expecting another Kickstarter campaign from him, but he actually made this without Kickstarter, and that's amazing. But I'm actually very happy about that, and so because of that, there was no waiting involved. I just had to buy it on Amazon right when it showed up. And so this is a book by John, and I'm gonna get his name right. I'm gonna try to get his name right. It's Sichea Panic. It's a really hard one to pronounce, but from what he's told me, it is pronounced. This part is the SZ is pronounced as SH. And then the ZE is like CH. So, Paniac. Paniac. Okay. I hope that's as close as I'm ever going to get. But either way, it was actually really nice that when I made my first video, he actually sent me an email. I guess he got it from the backer list. But he sent me an email saying, hey, thanks for making that video. It was, really nice to go in depth like that. But either way, this is not sponsored content. I paid for this with my own money, and I'm really glad to, because there were a lot of little parts in this book where it said that something will be covered in Volume 2. So I'm really, really eager to get my hands on this. Let's look at the back, though, because it had some interesting stuff. Not much. What does this say? Volume 2 required too much time. Huh. Okay. Interesting. Alright. Let's see what's in here. He does such a great job with these pictures and illustrations that come out. What is that? Why is that guy's... His face is blurred out. Huh, okay. Blood type Seto Z. What? I don't know. The Japanese game developers, you really see a lot of their personality come out in this. It's really fascinating to see this. Oh, jeez, I can't wait to see more. He does such a good job, but you'll actually notice that this is all in black and white. And there actually is a color version that he's selling as well. But from what he told us, and I'm actually glad that he's been so direct with it, he said that there are some color differences. In other words, the colors aren't exactly perfect. And because of that, and because the price of the color version was just a little bit more than I was willing to pay, I decided to just go with the black and white one. And really, I mean, the first one that I got is in black and white, so I don't really care. I'm fine with black and white. And so there is a color version out there. I forget how much it costs, but... This one, though, it cost me, I think it was $31. I think Amazon might have been having a sale. And what was it? The normal price, I think it's like $35, which is actually a lot less than the first book, because the first book was £35, if I'm recalling correctly. And and so as far as like the dollar exchange rate, at least back then, it was like close to $50 for this book. So I'm actually glad that this one is cheaper. It's also a little bit shorter, But either way, not by much. They're both pretty thick books. How many pages is this? 400 pages almost. Yeah, $3.95. Holy crap. Yeah. Okay, let's do like I did last time. I'm going to go ahead and... Oh, wow. Look at this. This is on that Taito Wow Wow. That is like this unreleased console that Taito wanted to do. Because back then, every Japanese every Japanese game designer, the big ones, they wanted to get into the console market. Even Capcom had this it was sort of like a console, but it played arcade boards. But it was basically like Capcom's version of a Neo Geo AES. And hardly anybody remembers that, but there are some out there. And I think it was actually released in very, very limited quantities. But anyways, wow. I'm going to read this one for sure. But let me go ahead and take a look at what's in here. I'm not even going to look at that. Saw some Japanese boobies. But let me go ahead and take a look at this. And I'll spend a few minutes reading a couple articles. And I will come back and let you guys know what I think. Well, guys, I'm back. And did I mention I hate these books? I hate them because they completely destroy any productive plans I have for the day. And I've been buried in this book for about 2.5 hours now. And it's just like the first one. I go into it saying, you know what, I'm just going to get, 2 articles, read them, and then I'll give my opinion. And then it turns into 5 or 6 articles, and it's like a Wikipedia binge where I just keep on looking at more and more stuff and go further down the rabbit hole. But this is an amazingly well done book. And there's some fascinating stories in here. I'm going to start with the first one that you saw, with this guy with the blurred face. And the name should have given it away for me because I've heard of that last name right there, the surname. So Nanashi, that in Japan, I think there was a game that used that title, and so that's why I'm aware of what it means. It should have stuck out to me like a sore thumb, but Nanashi means no name. It's kind of like saying Mr. X or Anonymous or something. So this guy, this is actually a pseudonym. That's not the guy's real name. And anyways, he said that he worked for, various game companies. And he has an amazing story where he talks about, let me first say that I went into later on in the interview and I saw that there was all this stuff that was censored. I was like, what's going on here? It's not usual for a book like this to get censored like that. And it turns out it's because the guy has a story that he tells that involves a certain Japanese game company and the Yakuza. And it's just so strange. I'm like, what the heck? I never thought that games like got involved with the seedy underbelly of the world, But he does explain that it's like, well, games, they're kind of like, like gambling machines. They're regulated by, I think it's called the pink industry or something. Let me see. Yeah, the pink industry. And so that's kind of like, the stuff that it's kind of like gaming commission, like gambling pretty much. And anyway, so he has this interesting story that he tells about a certain company which is a big video game developer over in Japan. And this certain company, it seems to only be about 4 letters long. They don't say who it was, and they try to block out all the people, all the identifying information that you could have there. But this certain 4-letter company, they were ganging up on this developer, this poor guy right here, because he was going to be collaborating with Nintendo, which is this 4-letter company's main adversary, apparently. And anyways, the way that they did it was that they kidnapped his younger sister, and the Yakuza did, hired by this anonymous 4-letter company. Anyway, so they kidnap his sister, and the way the guy gets her back, he couldn't go to the cops because this 4-letter company has a lot of pull, and they'll just go ahead and pay off the cops or, pay off a, local government official and then get the guy into trouble, the victim here. But anyway, so the way that he did it is that he rented a crane and he got his friend to get an arcade machine from this mysterious 4-letter game company, and they smashed it in front of that company's offices with a note that was later sent to the company saying, hey, look, you released my sister, I'm going to do this to you guys. I'm going to do this to one of your employees. And so then they went ahead and released the sister. And it didn't happen like this gorgeous illustration says it happened. He even says it in the interview. He's like, yeah, I couldn't, be a thug and go rescue my sister myself. I'm I'm just a little game developer. I'm not built for a fight, you know. But gee, I wonder which four-letter game company this was. I wonder if those masks have anything to do with it. Huh? I'm drawing a blank here, guys. But anyways, yeah. And so this guy, he really goes into probably the secret history of these game companies. He even says that SNK was funded by Yakuza money. Apparently, that's a well-known rumor, but this guy actually confirms that yeah, that is true, at least as far as what he knows. And the story is just so crazy. It's almost too crazy to believe, but this guy, John, I mean, he's written 1,000 pages of Japanese game history. So I do trust him as you know, an interviewer and a journalist right here, whatever he would like to call himself. And not only that, but he did say that he looked into these guys. I think it was actually several people involved with the interview. He looked into it. He did go ahead and look up, you know, did this guy actually work for a game company? And yes, he did. And so apparently the story is true. But it's just amazing, amazing stuff that was going on there. And even during the interview, the guy pulls out his phone and he shows him emails with like concept art footage, beautiful concept art footage for a Golden Axe game. That's another hint. A Golden Axe game that was never released, that will never be released. It was canceled. And it's just such amazing stuff. Just in this first interview, it's amazing stuff. And the guy also worked for Square Enix, I think it was. Yeah, and so he talks about another unreleased game, which is very interesting to me because apparently this game, it was about, it was like a shooter that was about modern day U.S. Marines that go into a time slip right here, and that takes them to the 16th or 17th century feudal Japan where they're fighting like samurai with swords and everything. And that's interesting to me because that concept is not original. It's actually taken from a Sonny Chiba movie that was called G.I. Samurai. And so you say, I don't know if that license was ever involved or anything, but they actually did make a full movie about that back in, when is this, 1979. And you know what? The foreign language title of it is also known as Time Slip. So it's obvious that it was inspired by G.I. Samurai. But either way, so I just thought that was very interesting. And this whole book is fascinating. There's another guy in here who, I'm going to read this interview tonight. Oh, hey, check this out. Here's Virtual Boy development stuff. Really cool. There's another guy here. Where is he? Here we go. This guy. He actually worked on CDI games. And that's going to be an interesting one because he even has this part right here where he has a sharp inhale. The CDI hardware is not good, so that's going to be pretty cool. I actually own a CDI. I got it at a thrift store for like $20. But so that was a cool find. But that's a very topical interview right now because, of course, we discovered the recent, what was it, the Nintendo PlayStation, which when you look into it, it was more of a development on Sony's side, but this one actually shows the Nintendo side with Philips. And so yeah, just interesting stuff. I also like these illustrations because the author, he seems to have the same neurosis that I have, where I like to see how offices were structured. Like, you know, a certain floor, how you know, offices, how the rooms were scattered, where developers worked. And that's something that I always find interesting, and that's something that isn't really brought up in interviews. I mean, usually if they talk about their headquarters or where they developed, it's usually like, oh yeah, we had a small office, and then that's it. They don't elaborate on it. But I love this that they always include, he always asks the interview subject to draw like the offices. And that's something that, I know it's inconsequential, it's not really important, but it is to me. I really like it when he includes that. And yeah, just fascinating stuff. Another thing that I like about this is that this book, as opposed to the first one was almost all about Japanese games, some of them which didn't even get over here to the West. But this one, it actually has a lot more games that did make it over here. And so that made it a little bit of an easier read. Maybe that's just me though, because I've been poring over his original book. So I've kind of been looking at all this stuff, and I'm more versed with Japanese games now. But it's just amazing, all the artwork in all these games. This one is actually the Taito Wow Wow. It's actually republished from Unseen 64, but still it's a very, very interesting interview about a console that never came out. And it's just amazing stuff in here. There's also these little illustrations like you saw with the guy fighting the Yakuza over there. There's some illustrations that are unique to this book, and I think that those are great because they really take you into the story and illustrate what the interviewee is talking about. It's amazing. It like the drawings of how the headquarters were situated and offices and everything. It really puts you into the scene and into the moment of what these guys are talking about. I love that. But yeah, just amazing stuff here. And let me show you something. Where is it? Oh, and look. Like you see Metal Warriors, again, talking about games that actually did release over here. So again, it's a little bit easier to connect with people, with the reader, because of course, I mean, this is in English, so I'm betting that a lot of people reading this, they're going to be from Western countries. So it's a little bit easier to connect with this one than it was with the last book, where it was mostly about Japanese games and not really a lot that were released here. But check this out here. Alright, this guy, he's the one who designed Steel Battalion. And anyway, so he designed the Steel Battalion game. He's the guy who came up with the whole concept for it. And it's amazing because he goes from, this shows how Japanese he is, he goes from designing Steel Battalion right after that. And by the way, here's a concept sketch for a controller that was never actually made for it. He wanted to have like a grip, like a throttle grip that had a button for each finger. And of course that was just going to be too expensive for it. But, and also some other stuff for the controls. Like for instance, he wanted to integrate voice controls so you could say stuff like search for hostiles and then it will go ahead and search automatically for you while you do other stuff. And it's just interesting stuff. They talk about stuff that never saw the light of day, and that's of course what I like to read here. But check this out. He starts out with Steel Battalion, and after he's done with that, he goes on to making hentai games. And apparently this one, AV King, this one is like a Japanese version of 50 Shades of Grey before 50 Shades ever came out. And that sounds absolutely terrifying when you add in the Japanese part to 50 Shades of Grey. But even more terrifying than that Yakuza story. But crazy stuff. This covers almost every part of the Japanese game industry, and I love it for that. But it's amazing. Oh, this will show you the power of these illustrations. Look at this. I really laughed hard here. All right, here's our interviewer John asking, "I've heard there was an incident during development involving a hotel in America." And then the interviewer responds angrily, "What are you talking about? You're trying to insinuate that I flooded a hotel room? That's outrageous." And then later on, and again, this kind of shows how it's all like a big story with all these guys that basically know each other. Later on, it's the guy who told the story to him that details exactly what happened. Apparently, this developer, he was working a really long day on the job, and then so he comes back, and he comes back to his hotel room, and he gets a bath ready. So he turns on the water, and then he crashes out on the bed. He is just so exhausted, he just passes out on the bed out of exhaustion. He wakes up 2 hours later, the whole place is flooded. The whole room, the hallway, everything is covered in water. And just amazing stuff. These guys, it's like the Rolling Stones you're reading about. There's another story that I saw just in passing where the who was it? I forgot which developer it was, but the developers, they would be working hard, and then the company president shows up drunk and drags them off to the bar, and the developers are just so pissed off. They're like, "Why are you doing this to us? We're trying to get a game made, and you're just taking us off to go drink." But overall, this is just an amazing book. There were some amazing stories that I read right here. I'm going to be reading a lot more of it tonight, but I'll go ahead and leave with this part at the back, because he's showing this little illustration right here for volume 3, which that makes me very happy that he's working on another one, because I really do like his work. And anyway, so he's talking about this figure right here that's drawn, this apparently the everyman, the average Joe, you and me, you know. And then so he's describing it right here, and he's describing this person as is the author of these books, struggling valiantly against dark forces on a chaotic quest. Oh, I love that. And it has actually been a chaotic quest for him. Instead of windmills, he's been battling Japanese translators, apparently. In a lot of the updates, there are these translators that worked on him with this book, but, I mean, nothing went wrong business-wise, I mean, as far as the exchange goes, but they're just evil people. They're absolute garbage. They keep suing him like a bunch of crazies, but the judges keep throwing the cases out. He could probably write a book about just that part of his whole quest. But either way, it's just interesting. And this guy, he's the nicest guy you've ever heard of. I mean, I couldn't believe it when he sent me a personal thank you email, because back then I only had like 50 subscribers on this channel. I mean, I was so small, but he took the time to go write me something. But either way, he's been absolutely great with this. I can't believe that he actually made this without Kickstarter money, Volume 2. And that's actually really good. I'm looking forward to Volume 3 because he can make some amazing work with this. And I do recommend it. Again, this is not sponsored content. And this is all bought with my own money, but it is cheap. It is very affordable. And in fact, I would actually recommend that if you're new to all of this and you don't really know which one to get, either Part 1 or Part 2, I'm actually going to say something crazy. I recommend that you start out with Part 2. Because like I said, it's a little bit easier to get into. It's a little bit more topical for Western gamers. And it's almost like these articles are so interesting, especially that first one, that they grab you and pull you in. It's amazing. Like I said, I couldn't put it down. I had to put it down now or else I would never finish this. But it's incredible. So I do recommend the second one. Get that first if you don't have the first one. And if you like it, which I'm sure you will, then you're probably going to get the first one anyways. But this is actually a much easier read. It's easier to get into, whereas the other one, it took a little bit of work because, again, it talked about a lot of games and companies that I wasn't familiar with. But this one, though, is incredible. Absolutely incredible. But anyways, yeah, so I do recommend it. It would make a great gift, and it's pretty cheap. It's cheaper than the first one. So that's my recommendation, and I'm going to leave you guys with that, okay? Have a good one. I'll see you guys next time.